So, very good morning. And firstly, welcome along to our Business Spotlight interview series. My name is Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and Business Performance UK. I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Neil Beaumont. Neil, who is the Managing Director of Centara Ltd. Very good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
Very good, very good. Well, we'll be hearing plenty more from Neil in just a few moments. Before we do that, though, really what I wanted to do was just explain what the purpose of these interviews actually are. So we're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. They've each got their own stories, and these interviews help us share those journeys, showcase their achievements, and ultimately increase awareness and maximize their exposure, all in the name of abundance. And it's for the benefit of businesses right the way across the UK and sometimes internationally. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Neil. Neil, do you want to tell me a little bit more about Centara?
Yep, no problem. Centara has been going since 2009. We're a business that operates in multiple sectors, such as rail, construction, utilities, the private sector, as well as work with several clients in government industries as well. We predominantly provide two different types of service. So we have a surveying and an engineering business under Centara. They used to operate as separate limited companies, but we were acquired by the RSK Group at the end of 2021, and we consolidated the business into one entity. We've around about 70 employees working throughout the UK, based out of our offices in Normanton, West Yorkshire, and around about 50% of our workforce is kind of field-based, so carrying out electrical surveys and geomatic and geospatial surveys on a range of different sites up and down the UK. Field-based, as I say, we use a lot of different technologies as part of the work that we carry out. So things like laser scanners, ground penetrating radar, survey equipment such as total stations and GPSs, etc. And basically, what we do is we provide above and below ground records of infrastructure networks that are built up in lots of different environments to enable our customers to design and build, a range of different infrastructure, whatever that may be, in whichever sector they're operating in. So in a nutshell, that's Centara.
So you were saying about the sort of infrastructure side, if you like,
Yeah.
of what you actually find in the surveys. So give me some examples. What are we talking? Is this electrical cabling? Is this power? Is this water and drainage and things like that?
Absolutely.
What extent do you go into?
Yeah, exactly that, Ron. We carry out what are called utility mapping surveys, and PAS 128, which is the British standard specification for identifying underground services using a range of different geophysical technologies, such as electromagnetic locators and ground penetrating radar systems. So what we'll do, we'll go onto a site, we'll agree with the customer the area that needs to be surveyed, which is generally the area in which they're looking to build or design some kind of new infrastructure. And then what we'll do is we'll follow the procedure. So we'll go out and scan all the areas, trace out all the cables using electromagnetics, scan all the ground using ground penetrating radar, collect all that data, and then post-process that information using a range of different software packages. And then from that, we can build up a 3D model of what's in the ground and also what's above the ground as well. So using laser scanners and using geospatial surveying equipment like total stations, laser scanners, and GPS systems, we can capture all the above ground assets as well as the below ground assets, and then build up a 3D model of the sites that we can our clients can then use to design their new infrastructure. Or indeed it could just be for excavation purposes, so they can avoid anything that's already there in the ground when they're excavating new foundations or new cable trenches or putting up new structures, all that kind of stuff, so they can design and build safely as well as efficiently.
So you said about the contractors and also sort of on the civil side of things. So who's your main customer base? Is this always going to be contractors, or could it be down to individuals and people who own a property or whatever it may be?
It's both. I mean, we work on sites ranging from anything from an individual house for it could be a customer that's wanting to extend their existing property or knock the property down and build a new property on a piece of land, or right up to people that own some of the biggest pieces of infrastructure. And I'm thinking like things like the national grid in the UK, in England and Wales, or Scottish and Southern Energy up in Scotland up there, where They own what's called the transmission network, so all the pylons, the cables, the substations that basically keep the lights on across the whole of the country. They're our customers as well, and we also work for the principal contractors and designers who they employ to design and build new networks as well. So, like, one of the big things we're involved in at the moment is the Great Grid Upgrade, where National Grid and Scottish and Southern Energy are looking to expand the capacity on the network by up to 200% by over the next sort of 20-25 years. So they're extending all the substations, they're building new overhead line networks, all that kind of stuff, and basically to enable additional demand on the network that that net zero is going to bring, through green power generation. So we're going out, we're surveying a lot of the land in and around substations, the existing substations themselves, and in and around the overhead line networks as well. So yeah, that's the big infrastructure. We've also worked on some big projects like HS2. So in the early parts of HS2, when they're designing the infrastructure and the new railway line between London and Birmingham, we did a lot of ground investigation surveys. We're doing utility mapping surveys to enable them, as well as like desktop studies and things like that as well. So they're kind of the big end of the jobs. Or it might be things for like local authorities as well, where they're upgrading a highway network, a road network within there, so they'd need surveys doing. Or some other things we've done recently is something called Access for All on the rail network. So that's where they're putting in disabled access, bridges, lifts, platforms, etc., to enable sort of disabled access to a lot of the local sort of more provincial railway stations. So we've done surveys for customers that were operating in that as well. So basically anybody that's going to be breaking ground and designing something or building something new needs one of these surveys before they start. So
okay, excellent. And what's been your personal journey on this? You said that the business started in 2009, I think.
that's correct.
So
Yeah.
how long have you been with the company, and what path have you sort of taken?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in this market since 1998. So I originally joined Yorkshire Electricity, working in their drawing, what they call the drawing office at the time. They were just in the process of migrating all their infrastructure drawings from old acetates right through into what's now called GIS systems. So it's like big digital maps of all of the infrastructure and the assets. So I worked there for a number of years, and then I went to work for a contractor that operated in that market, a couple of contractors that operated in that market, and then finally found myself at Centara in 2012. I joined as general manager. Prior to that, I'd been doing business development roles. So I've been a business development executive and a business development manager, working for companies that were providing similar services into this kind of space. And then the opportunity came up to join Centara in 2012 as general manager. When I joined, then the company had around about 8 or 9 employees, so it was pretty much a new startup. It'd been going a couple of years, so my remit really was to come on board and grow the business through business development, through looking at new sectors, recruiting lots of different people, and getting into new spaces, which is what we did when we started Centara Engineering Services around about 2015, which was really to diversify our service offering into, as well as providing survey services, also providing electrical drawing management and design services as well. So quite a niche thing, but it also dovetailed nicely into what we were doing with the surveys, because we were collecting a lot of information about assets, which then could form part of the design process for the asset owners and the network operators. So we started this engineering company, got a few people involved in that, who could provide us more specialist design services, and then we grew from there, because obviously we were used to dealing with a lot of CAD drawings and working with customers that were producing drawings, etc. So it was kind of a bit of a natural progression, really, into that market. So and then obviously I mentioned Centara was acquired in back end of 2021 by the RSK Group. So part of that acquisition strategy was that the current company owners were looking to sort of take more of a backseat, and as they were heading towards their own personal retirement. So then that from my point of view, that was when the opportunity came to step up to operations director, and more recently to managing director, in readiness really for our owner stepping down next month. So
Right, excellent. So that's been a sort of a recent transition. So you came through the hands-on and actually doing the sort of design and survey side of things through the
yeah,
drawing office. You then
yeah,
went into more the commercial side and then into the operations and now ultimately into the managing director's role.
yeah.
So what's the future looking like? What are your main focuses as you move forward in this next step of your own personal journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real sort of step change for me personally and the business. The fact that when we were acquired by RSK, because obviously now we are, as well as maintaining our relationships and building the business with external customers, we're also working alongside and partnering with other businesses in the RSK family, as we call it, because basically RSK is a family of 200 different businesses that are all sort of started off as small family businesses. They've been acquired into the RSK Group, but they all work as independent brands and independent companies, all sort of working together to deliver, projects for our customers externally. So part of my journey now really is going to be about building relationships both internally with other group businesses and externally with our
Mhm.
existing clients and new clients as well. And it's quite an exciting space to work in. There's a lot of demand. We're trying to grow the business organically by recruiting, training, developing new people. So I'm quite heavily involved in that side of things. We've developed a lot of management, new management structures within the company, people that have come through, like myself, from the tools, from the drawing office and from the design team, who are now, up to associate level, senior management level, and they're bringing in their own new people, the new trainees, the
Mhm.
apprentices, etc. And that's how we're looking to grow the business, organically over the 10 to 15% growth per year. And there's certainly the work out there to do that, but it's more about it's finding the good people to deliver those services to keep the quality of service up for our customers.
It's interesting that you say that. I'll not say it's a common theme, but it seems to be the majority of sizable businesses within the construction or utilities-based space. It's not the capacity that's actually holding them back, it's their capabilities through getting those talented staff. So has
Yeah.
that been one of the biggest challenges that you would say that you faced over the last few years, is getting trained and experienced members of staff to be able to cope with this volume of projects?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's always been a challenge since since we started the company. Really, there's a lot of competition for resources. HS2 when that started, I forget now, maybe 2012, 2013, that put a lot of pressure on the market as well because people moving in there, uh, a lot of the big resource requirements required for that. So that we've faced constant challenges in recruiting, which we do manage to recruit experienced people, but probably about 5 or 6 years ago, we took the decision that we needed to support our external recruitment with developing our own people as well. So that's why the mainly trainees and apprentices come from. Currently got two apprentices within the business and probably about half a dozen trainees, and really within 12 to 18 months of bringing people with the sort of the right core skills in, you can develop them into to good surveyors and good
Mm.
junior engineers and designers, etc.
It's interesting. In a previous life, I used to be involved with the steel industry, and for all of the excuses and people going, oh, it's tough and this is against us. You look at the model in Germany, where some of the actual steel mills ran their own degree programs. So they were
Yeah,
taking people right the way through from apprenticeship. 7 years later, they were coming out of that with a degree and also the experience and a lot of commitment and loyalty to that business, because they'd taken them through not just through an apprenticeship but
yeah,
right the way into that sort of full thing. But the actual business was issuing the degrees. They're classed as a university, as opposed to just you're doing an apprentice degree scheme, which seems to be the model we've adopted in the UK. So it's interesting, and not a great surprise that that is one of the challenges that you sort of face. So
that's it. And,
um
and and that's very much the way where we're looking at it as well. We have an educational relationship manager within our group that she's developing degree apprenticeships with universities throughout the UK. And that's something that we're looking to benefit from as Centara, as a business unit operating under the RSK umbrella. The other thing that we do is when we advertise a role, we say, if you want to become a chartered surveyor, you can come and work for Centara, train to become a technically qualified surveyor, and then we will sponsor you and support you to become a chartered surveyor working for us through either Chartered Institute of Civil Engineering Surveyors or RICS. So that's a benefit to people that want to join us and develop their career as a surveyor with Centara.
It is that, weirdly, that's quite refreshing, because there's far too many businesses out there that look at that as a risk of, what if we invest and spend all this money to get people up to chartered status and then they disappear and go work for themselves, or work for, even worse, one of our competitors. And actually, you've got to give people the chance to grow. And if you can offer that within the business, fantastic. If not, you've got to just accept that's part of their journey. You can't hold them back. They might come back to you down the line if you treat them well. But people have to go and find other things for themselves as well. So, I think it's very refreshing to hear that is the model you're adopting, because it overcomes the fear that too many businesses seem to have at the moment. So in terms of the growth in the market, and it's early days for you as managing director, but based on your sort of experience and your journey coming through a growing business, which is now up to, I think you said 70 odd people.
Yeah, we've 76 employees at the moment. We've probably, by the end of this financial year or the coming financial year, we should be up to around about 80, 85, something like that. So that's
it's continuing to grow. So and as you say, there's plenty of work out there, there's plenty of big projects and things like that. I'm going to make an assumption that, having been in business for a number of years, not everything's been plain sailing. So are there any mistakes that, if you had your time again, you'd like to do slightly differently, or you'd like to alter a few things? Or are there things, I guess, are there lessons that you've taken from your personal journey that you're going, it's exciting because I now get to implement this as managing director?
Yeah, I think in the early days, we were very keen to sort of try our hand at everything. So we thought we rushed into some things that we wanted to kind of develop the service offering to get into a wider survey thing. I think necessarily we might have jumped a little bit quick with some of those service offerings, rather without fully understanding what we were getting ourselves into. And you kind of have this, as a small startup, you've got this mentality that you want to try and do everything and keep everybody happy, and you're less inclined to say no. But I think now we've learned that some of the times there were some projects we've been involved in where perhaps we should have said no, because we didn't necessarily make the margins that we would have liked to have done, by doing things that we probably shouldn't have tried our hand at.
I think we've all been there, where there's not only projects but clients that we just shouldn't have worked with.
Yeah.
but as you say, as you're starting out in the early stages, everyone with a checkbook seems to be a good client, and you take on business because you're growing, not with the benefit of hindsight sometimes. So and if there was any bit of advice that you could give to other people, either looking to start out in the, I'll call it construction, but sort of civils and surveying and that sort of market. So either advice for people starting out, or advice that you would give generally to other businesses, forget your sector, but people that are just in business, what would that bit of advice be?
It's look after your people, really. You've got to look, if you look after the staff, they'll look after the customers. And that's it. If you've got a happy workforce, and then you'll have happy customers. It's simple as that, really.
No, engaged and motivated is a massive thing, and if you've got the right people, greatness will happen, as long as you can allow them to be everything that they could possibly be. So that's actually bringing us towards the end of the interview. It's been absolutely fascinating. Just as a bit of a sense check, is there anything that we've not covered, or anything that you'd like to add, Neil?
Um, obviously, if anybody wants to learn more a little about what Centara do, or talk to us about the projects that we've been all involved in specifically, just feel free to get in touch with us via our social media channels or our website. We've got a real friendly customer facing team who will be more than happy to answer everybody's questions. And that's it really, Ron. That's all I wanted to add.
Fantastic. Well, it brings us to the end of the interview. And firstly, big thank you for Neil for sharing your journey and sharing the journey of Centara. Sounds like it's been a not so much even a roller coaster, but just a great journey of expansion, lessons learned along the way. But you're in a healthy position, and I think the benefit of being now part of a larger group with 200 or so businesses is just going to give more and more opportunity. So it's exciting time. So thank you for sharing that. Also, thank you for anyone else who's actually watching this. What I'd like to say is, if just like Neil, if you want to share your journey, if you want to highlight what you're doing in your business, just simply get in touch. When we post these videos, we put clear instructions of how to get in touch. We don't bite, and we'll simply book you in and just take you through the journey of discovery about your own business, so you can share that with as many people as possible. So big thank you again to Neil. Thank you for everyone else who's been watching. It's been another of our business spotlight interviews, and we'll see you soon. Keep smiling.
Thanks, Ron.
Take care.